everybody, Shalom Aleichem. Welcome, Thursday night Mishmar. Pretty stormy, beautiful few days here in Eretz HaKodesh. Hoping you're all staying warm, safe, healthy more than anything. And kamuvan, besimcha, besimcha. La Yehudim ha'isa'ida Oida besimcha besasein b'gad La Yehudim ha'isa'ida Oida besimcha besasein b'gad La Yehudim ha'isa'ida Oida besimcha besasein b'gad La Yehudim ha'isa'ida Oida besimcha besasein b'gad. Right before we started learning right now, I was talking to a friend in Chutz La'aretz, outside the country, and said to him, how you feeling? How you holding up? He said to me, honestly, it's so hard to be b'simcha this Adar. Could be he's right, but real simcha is not because of any reason. So even if right now you don't have any reason to be b'simcha, that's a perfect opportunity to actually be l'shem shamayim b'simcha. Doesn't get better than that. Diddy-dai, dai-dai-dai-dai, diddy-dai-dai-dai-dai-dai, diddy-dai, diddy-dai-dai-dai-dai-dai, do-do-do-do-do, dai-dai-dai-dai-dai-dai, Yehudim ha'isa'ida Oida besimcha besasein b'gad La Yehudim ha'isa'ida Oida besimcha besasein b'gad La Yehudim ha'isa'ida Oida besimcha besasein b'gad La Yehudim ha'isa'ida Oida besimcha besasein b'gad. You know, my brother just put out a beautiful new song for Purim. I would love to sing it. Okay, I think this is how it goes. Sam ha'isolanetzah veziglo sam b'chol dar v'dor 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 Good Purim, 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 good Purim. So, I hope we'll have a chance to have a few more Purim classes, Purim Shirim before Purim. I also hope we have a chance to do a Parsha Zachar Shir, literally in the next day. But Terumah is Terumah. And as many of you know, we're right now in the stages of a campaign to build our shul, to finish the building for our wonderful shul, Shirat David, here in Efrat. A dream come true, a dream that only gets fresher and fresher, it doesn't get old. And this is the parsha that says, "V'asu li mikdash v'shachanti betocham." The Rebbeinu Shalom is telling us, build a shul, build shuls for me. He's really saying, build the Beis Hamikdash for me. And until we do that, we have to build properly what seems to us the most ideal place for the Rebbeinu Shalom to say, here's where I feel at home. So tonight, as we continue with from the Beis Avram, thank God, the Slonimer, we have a beautiful piece which will help us understand how do you build something for God that's for God. How do you do something for God that's about God? Like the Kotzker Rebbe basically says better than anyone. Everyone's trying to do everything l'shem shamayim, but we have to make sure that our l'shem shamayim is also l'shem shamayim. So let's jump right into this beautiful, wonderful piece that we have. And as you can see, we will be doing, if you have the Sefer, it's Daf Pei Beis, and we're doing the second piece, V'yikhuli. Try to make this a little bit bigger on our page. Okay, hopefully this is okay. So the famous words are V'yikhuli Terumah, that you'll take for me a Terumah. That meaning when it comes to giving something to the Beis Hamikdash, when it comes to giving something to Hashem, towards the Beis Hamikdash, it's got to be a Terumah. Terumah means literally something lifted, something elevated. And our sages explain that it means that it's got to be not just something that's more mishubach, something that's more valuable, but that the manner in which you give towards the Beis Hamikdash is different than the way you give towards anything else. It's something else. Rashi helps us understand this. And like the Rebbe says here, Perush Rashi, li lishmi. That if you're taking something for me, you're doing it for my name. The shaila is, what does that really mean? Li lishmi. So he says like this, B'shem tzadikim. I always love that. Like in the name of tzadikim. It gives it like, doesn't really spell it out, but he's saying, in the name of tzadikim. Im adam mevakesh eze davar gashmi me'akadosh baruch hu. If someone requests something materialistic from HaKadosh Baruch Hu, from God, then what happens? From Shamayim, as botkin acharav im ra'ui hu shetfilato titkabel beratzon lemale mishalotav. Then they check and see from Shamayim if this person is worthy of his davening being received in the right place, meaning that his what his heart desires should be accepted. Meaning they check to see, is he megia lo lo? Does he deserve it or not? So he says, well, he's not going to say here that, never ask for something materialistic, but he says, al ken ha'etza. What's the wisdom? What's the counsel? Shebe'et sara yevakesh me'ashem lo bishvilo. That means that when you're in time of stress and you need to be saved, don't ask for yourself, but rather, ela bishvil chelek eloka mima'al sheyesh bo. When you're davening for yourself to be redeemed, to be saved, to be helped, to be taken out of constraints. Don't daven for you, because if you're davening for you, they're going to come and check and see, are you worthy, are you not worthy? But if you're davening over that godly spark, that chelek eloka mima'al sheyesh bo, like the Tanya says, if you're basically saying to God, Ribono Shel Olam, have rachmanis on the piece of you that's in me, then it's something else. She'ein ze lichvodo shel hamelech, shebno yeh kol kach b'shefel hamatzav. It's not right, it's not proper, it's not honorable for the king that the king's son should be in such a low state. It doesn't look good when the king's son is basically on the floor, stricken with pain and affliction. See, when you're going from that direction, and you're really doing it because that's what you're connecting to, not because you're trying to get a way out. But you're saying, Ribono Shel Olam, listen, I know I have to get my act together, but why would you let yourself be schlepped down so low? Have rachmanis on yourself. Have rachmanis on yourself. I think I shared with you before in the past something that it's very hard to, I guess, reenact. It's very hard to explain or to give over, but sometimes there's such love between parents and children that a child can see when the parent is kind of losing their cool, and the child knows that the parent will be able to see a piece of them in the child. And when they ask for mercy, when they ask for rachamim, they're basically saying, why don't you have rachmanis on yourself? You're hurting yourself. Meaning, if you're going to hurt me, you're really hurting yourself. Some say that's such a crazy holy chutzpah thing. An unholy chutzpahdik way of speaking. But in the pnimius of things, that's what he's speaking about over here. Like, can you really sincerely find the place? You got to be really centered for this. Can you really find the place? Can you zone in on a place where you sense that, you can sense that piece of Hashem that's within you, this chelek eloka mimal, that's also suffering due to however you got yourself into trouble. It doesn't matter really right now. And from there, say, Ribono Shel Olam, Chotziya mimazger nafshi, take me out of here. If the person can do that, then the Slonim is saying, then they don't check to see, is this person deserving or not? Because there's nothing to do with that kind of a question. It's about God. Lishmi, it's actually about Hashem. And we have an example of this. And this is my favorite example of all time. We know that, this, one of the most epic moments in the Torah is that moment that Yehuda comes before Yosef. And like he says over here in the fourth line of Vayigash Elav Yehuda. Yehuda comes before Yosef, and we all know that his words stir up such an emotional outburst, where basically then Yosef reveals himself to the brothers. What did he say? How did he begin? He says, Vayomer bi Adoni. And we all know that the way that Yehuda spoke to Yosef is the way a Yid davens. That's we learn davening from this interaction. And that's why he says over here, Hi hagasha l'tefillah. That when a person said, the way you want to daven is by saying, Bi Adoni. What does Bi Adoni mean? So he says, She'ish Yehudi mevakesh me'Hashem, that when a Yid is asking something from Hashem, ha'ikar hu Bi Adoni. What's the ikar of your request? It's not that I need something, it's that Bi Adoni, in me is you. In me is you. I once heard a crazy testimony from someone who made it through World War II, but they had a moment where they weren't sure they were going to make it or not, and the family was getting shechted around them, and the person lifted up their eyes to Shamayim, kind of like a Bi Adoni moment, and said, God, why would you do this to yourself? Why would you do this to you? Yes, it's happening to human beings, and God's eternal and everything, but if we believe that part of you is in us, why would you do this to you? You see, when you ask from that place, first of all, it sounds so much more simple than it is. Like they say, you have to be holding, meaning you can't just say, why would you do this to you? It's got to really feel that you know what you're talking about when you say such words. Ha'ikar hu bi Adoni, sheyesh bi chelek me'Adoni. This, I have a piece of you in me, Hashem. Ve'ein ze lichvodo. And where I'm at is not coveted to you. It's not honorable to you. Ve'az, he says, tfilato mekubelet. See, when a person is able to daven from that place, Yehuda style, Vayomer bi Adoni, it's not about you, then your davening is being accepted. So what's the question that we had in the beginning? We were saying, what does it really mean to do something lishma? To do something lishma doesn't just mean I have the right kavana. What is the right? What does it mean that you have the right kavana? That you're not bothered by other thoughts? The right kavana is that you're conscious of the godly spark that lives within you, and that's the place upon which you're asking for chemla, for compassion. And this he's saying was the story of Yehuda. This is how Yehuda got Yosef to open up his heart and to end the concealment. So now he goes to a pasuk that he quotes all the time. V'zehu, v'ani tfilasi lecha Hashem. Kol tfilasi hirak lecha Hashem. My whole tefillah is just to you, Hashem. It's not what I'm asking for. It's that I'm davening to you. It's so much more important than what I'm asking for. Bishvil chelek eloka mimal. I'm davening always. My real tefillah is when I'm davening over that godly spark that's alive within me. And through this, alidezem misorer eis ratzon. And through this, an eis ratzon awakens. Baz miyad nana. And then he's answered right away. Like the pasuk, V'ani tfilati lecha Hashem et ratzon. So he's saying, V'ani tfilati, what is my tefillah? It's lecha Hashem, it's about you. And when I make it really about you, it's an eis ratzon. And I'm thinking a lot about Eretz Yisrael. Whenever we learn Torahs like this, Bichlal, hopefully I'm always thinking about Eretz Yisrael, but I'm thinking about it over here in this context. And as much as, there's so many people that are working so hard on Eretz Yisrael and, willing to give their lives, it's about Hashem's decision to give us the land. It's about Hashem's cover that God had decided. Lecha etein et haaretz hazot. Like, this was God's decision. And the fight over the land, and all that very complicated but not complicated situation encompasses, it's about that God's decision isn't being fulfilled to the best of its ability yet. It's not about anything else. Nationality and all these things, they're all beautiful, sometimes sweet, sometimes not so much sweet matters. Is it about Hashem or not? Even honoring myself, if I give myself respect, if I'm trying to walk with esteem, have bitachon atzmi, be filled with inner security. What am I doing it for? I could do that also, mamesh l'shem shamayim, or I could do it all under these false pretenses of what it's all about. V'yikchol li terumah li lishmi, v'ani svilasi lecha Hashem eis ratzon. V'yigash elav Yehuda vayomer bi Adoni. This is how a yid davens. And then an eis ratzon happens, this moment where the gates are open takes place. Ve'ein masach hamavdil. At that moment, there's no dividing screen. Ve'ein kitrugim, and there's no prosecutions when that's what you're davening about. Ki hakol chayavim bichvado shel hamelech. Everyone's chayav in the covet of the king. Shegam elu hamemunim laharog et hamordim b'melech. Even those who are appointed to kill those that rebel against the king, it's not about them getting their revenge. What the kavana behind what they're doing is just to fulfill the will of the king. Ve'im tfilato hi bishvil kavod hamelech mi ya'amod negdo. If your davening is about the honor of the king, nothing can stop you. Nothing can be in your way. Nothing can prevent you from going through any gate which may be locked. Chas v'shalom. So Elokim, the pasuk continues, Elokim berov chazdecha aneni be'emes ishecha. So Rav Chasdecha, Rav Chesed, right? Rav Chesed, he says, is gematria of the name Mordechai. It's a gewalt. Kmo bimei Mordechai, al yedei ze sh'Hashem yisbarach hera chasadim niglim. In the times of Mordechai, there was no masach hamavdil. There was no dividing screen. God revealed his chesed in such a non-concealed, within the framework of nature model. Now, why is he bringing Mordechai here, I think, is because Mordechai, a Yehudi, wasn't davening. He didn't not bow down before Haman because it was beneath his dignity. It's because he's an Ish Yehudi. He's an Ish Yehudi. It's not Shayach. Mordechai, lo yichra v'lo yishtachvem. Mordechai Yehudi's whole Inyan, remember, Mordechai comes from Binyamin. Mordechai comes from understanding what it's really all about. Mordechai also was in Bayis Rishon. Mordechai saw the Beis HaMikdash. He knew what it's like to stand in the presence of the Almighty. He knew what Kavod Hashem was all about. And that's the Rav Chesed. It's a guy like Mordechai who brings down the multitudes of chesed, of kindness, and of good things that happen to Am Yisrael. Mordechai HaYehudi's existence in the world, his energy broke down all mechitzas. There was no masach hamavdil. There was no dividing screen anymore because it wasn't about Mordechai. It wasn't about Esther. Like he says to Esther, "Mi yodea, im la'es kazos higas l'malchut." Revach v'atzalai amod le'adim makom acher. Listen, if it's about God's covered, there will be salvation. It's a matter of time. It could come from anybody. When it's about God, it'll happen. If it's about you, maybe it won't happen so much. So he says over here, Mordechai al Hashem yisbarach herach chasadim niglim, niya kiddush Hashem gadol, such a kiddush Hashem, such a sanctification of God's name took place in that time of Mordechai Yehudi bringing down such glorious chesed, so much so, ad sherabim mityahadim. What is this reference to? Towards the end of the Megillah, it says, "Verabim me'amei haaretz mityahadim." Many of the people of the land are becoming Yidden, mityahadim. They're becoming Yidden. They're becoming Jews. Meaning there was such a cheshek to be a Yid, a real Yid who is so fulfilled and complete when life is not about him, but when it's about the bigger picture, the real emesdika picture. There was such an energy in the world. Can you imagine right now if all of us right now tapped into this Lili Shmi energy? And I'm thinking about it, of course, in the context right now of building a shul, and you try to always empower people that are trying to raise money and say to them, you realize it's not about, when you go and you ask someone for money, it's not about you, it's about giving someone an opportunity. It's so much deeper than that. It's this is the Torah. It's basically saying, can you imagine building a whole building made off of money from people who were really interested in the kavod of Hashem? That's it. That's our dream. It's a pretty good pitch, no? Ad sherabim mityahadim, v'zeu kol tfilato. This was his whole tefillah. She'al yedei she'yashpia Hashem yisbarach chasadim yiskad hashmo. God's name becomes more sanctified and greater when the ability to just bring down revealed goodness is right there in the merit of someone who's davening mamesh over the kavod of Hashem. So now he goes back to the beginning. V'zeu vayikhu li terumah, li lishmi. You taking whatever it is, donating it towards the Beis HaMikdash, it's mamish gotta be for my name, for my kavod. Me'ez kol ish asher yidveno libo, from the heart of every person, anyone whose heart wants to bring forth something. What does that mean? That's avodah shebalev, zot tefillah, she avodah shebalev. He's saying davening is basically kol isha sheyidveno libo. Davening is known as the service of the heart. Yidveno libo means that any person whose heart designates something for the mikdash, that's davening. Zot tefillah, she avodah shebalev. She'az betfilah so yechaven rak li lishmi. That when you're davening, all you're thinking about, Ribono Shel, how is your name getting greater in the world by me suffering the way that I'm suffering? If you're suffering too with me. If that's what it's about, that's a Terumah. Lo bishvil hanas atzmo, not for his own sake and pleasure. Rak lichvodo yisborach v'as tefillah so tiyeh mekubeles. It's about the Ribono Shel Olam's covered, and then that person's covered. Then that person's davening is accepted. There's another word in Slonim. We see it in Pasha in a few weeks in Kitisa about after the Chet HaEgel, the golden calf. When Moshe Rabbeinu says Hareini Nas Kvodecha after the sin of the golden calf, he's asking God, show me your honor. So it's a very interesting timing of him asking God to show him his honor after the sin of the golden calf. And what he was, the way they explain it in Slonim is that what he was really saying was, Ribono Shel Olam, I know you're running the show and everything, and I'm not questioning at all why this had to happen this way. Why did 3,000 Yidden have to be killed by us Levis? Why did the whole story have to take such a negative twist? According to the Alter Rebbe in the Tanya, he explains how, we lost this awesome oneness that didn't exist since the Garden of Eden. It existed for a moment at Har Sinai, will not come back until Mashiach comes. Moshe Rabbeinu is not questioning God. But when he's saying Hareini Nas Kvodecha, he's saying, I just want to understand how your name becomes greater from this. That's all. Zekol ma shemanyan oti. That's all that concerns me. Of course, as we're, I'm sure now you're going to hear drushes about wrapping up a year of COVID-19, not the COVID we're talking about, but COVID-19. I think it's such an amazing time to ask Hashem, where is your covet becoming greater here? How have I made your covet greater in the world? When I've davened over difficulties in this last year, how much about it was about me or about you and us? Now here's the kicker, here's the important piece, Chevra. There are hundreds of thousands, maybe even millions of people who have been born, lived, and died, and they all lived very religious lives, and not once did they ever daven over Li Shmi. It could be. You could spend your whole life never even thinking like this because no one ever revealed it to you. No one ever explained to you that davening is not about the way that it usually is. Rather, it's this. A Breslover takes a tefillah like this and says, Ribono Shel Olam, can you give me the chance to just even taste this for a second? Can I try with my next mincha what it means to daven over your covet without starting to feel too guilty that it's not the manner in which I've prayed until now? So for those that have never ever approached a tefillah like, this Vayomer Bi Adoni, davening for your covet, Hashem, we're asking you, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, to please have compassion on us and allow us to begin a new world of tefillah in the schus of Mordechai Yehudi, whose energy is all over the place right now in the time of Erev Purim, so that we can read Torahs like this and not just being theoretical, but rather them being something that's that we could mamesh really relate to. So we'll sing one more nigun, Chevra, another Purim nigun. Thank you so much for being with us, and let's continue going strong. Let's go weiter. Le'ela. Join me this Sunday night for our campaign. Sunday night between 7 and 11. We have a lot of very exciting things, very exciting people, very chashuv rabbanim and musicians and teachers, and we've got an amazing program because we're going to finish this building, Be'ez Hashem, everyone together. Shoishanas Yaakov Tzahalav V'Samecha Yirei Sam Yachad Tchiles Mordechai Shoishanas Yaakov Tzahalav V'Samecha Yirei Sam Yachad Tchiles Mordechai Chu Asam Ha'Yisrael Netzav V'Zikva Sam B'chol Dor V'Dor Chu Asam Ha'Yisrael Netzav V'Zikva Sam B'chol Dor V'Dor Dai da da dai 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 da da dai 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 Shoishanas Yaakov Tzahalav V'Samecha Yirei Sam Yachad Tchiles Mordechai Shoishanas Yaakov Tzahalav V'Samecha Yirei Sam Yachad Tchiles Mordechai Chu Asam Ha'Yisrael Netzav V'Zikva Sam B'chol Dor V'Dor Chu Asam Ha'Yisrael Netzav V'Zikva Sam B'chol Dor V'Dor Da la 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 li Di da la li da da Oy doy 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 Di da la da Di da la da da Ay 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 Good Shabbos.